Hello my fellow gnomes, welcome to episode 5 of Dead Rails, where we're going to be looking at our tracks. Now at the moment I've placed all of these manually, so I've got 6 of these down, I've named all of them, and when it came to adding on the next part, I actually was making use of this plugin called Archimedes, which is not bad, but obviously you have to do it all manually. Now, CFrame calculations can be pretty confusing, so I'm going to try and walk you through every step of the process. Now, Archimedes gives us a lot of different options for rotating parts, but if we want to make our own, we've got to dive into a bit of how this works. So let's do an example of the CFrame here. Let's say I've got these 2 parts, right? Well, I've got this part starting off, and then I want to create a duplicate part that is on an offset angle from it. That might seem a little bit tricky, but allow me to visualize. So the first thing we want to do is we can't just rotate it, right? Because obviously we need it to be forwards. And we can't just offset it. Let's say we moved it along, so we've got the next section. But if then we rotate it, well, that's not right either, is it? It's just created a weird diamond shape. So what we need to do is, if we move it back, we need to take a few different steps. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to move it half of the way, right? So that this line, obviously ignore all that Z fighting, the middle of our part is now perfectly on the edge of the grey part. So we've moved it to offset it to the end of it. And then we need to move it back to one of the corners. So if we move it 2 studs, which is half the width of this part, then we're perfectly on the corner. Now we can do our rotation. So we'll rotate it, say 45 studs. Then if we're going to go back into the center, now notice I'm on local. So I'm moving always relative to my own red part, and move another 2 studs inside. And then if we move another 2 studs forward, 1, 2, watch what happens. Now we're perfectly lined up on this corner, on the opposite corner, so we have a nice alignment on the inside. So if we wanted to do that programmatically, we've got a script here. You can see I've defined a previous segment, which is the workspace.part. I laid out the rotation I want to make, which is 15 degrees on the y-axis. The end offset, right, so moving those 2 studs so it's in front of it. And then the rotate pivot so it lines up on that corner. Let's look at all the steps we have. We want to offset it. We want to go to the corner. We want to actually do the full rotation. Then we want to reset so that we're back in the middle. And then finally finish off that offset so that it's actually properly lined up just like we did. And if we complete all of those 5 steps, and then apply that to the original CFrame, we're going to get that same result again. I've got yellow this time. Now, I've hard-coded the values here. So let's say we wanted to have a different sized part, okay? Now it's 13 studs and 3 studs wide, so it's a bit different. We don't want to just be using it hard-coded like this anymore. So let's get the length and width of the part. Local length, previous segment.size.z, and we can get the width as well, which is just the X value. So then instead of -2 for the end offset, we can make it equal to the length divided by 2. So it's just half of it. And then for our rotation pivot, we'll make that into the width. So if we run that now, we're going to see it's kind of working, but it's coming out the wrong side for one. So let's make sure these are all going in the right directions. I'm going to create these 3 globals at the top. An angle just to help me, so we've got it at the very top. It's easy to access. We can just swap that out here so that we don't have to go back and dive into our code to find the exact degree every time. And then we've got this alignment value. So whether we're sort of pivoting on the internal corner or the external corner, if that makes sense. And then the direction, so which side we're coming out of. So we'll alter this rotation, so now it's the direction setting the angle, and then we'll also want the direction to control the length. And finally, for the rotation pivot, we want the direction and we want the alignment as well, and then multiply it by the width. So if I've got a 15-degree rotation, 0.5 alignment, and -1 direction, and I plug those numbers in and I run it, then I'm going to get this 15-degree curve perfectly away from my part. And if I want to go in the opposite direction, I set the angle to -15, and then I'm just going to switch that alignment back round. So that's a negative value. And there we go. It's perfectly aligned back on the opposite corner this time. So now let's take what we've learned and apply that to our actual game. So I'm going to paste in that script. I had that in a different place. And then all of these tracks, I've got a bunch of them. I'm going to delete all of them apart from the first one. Okay, so I've only got track model number 1. Now inside of my train handler script, I'm going to add in a module script for the track. And then I'll reference that inside of here. So local track module. We're going to use this module to generate a whole bunch of tracks. And so we're going to actually start off with a table containing our existing tracks. So the existing tracks will essentially be a blank table, but it needs to contain that first track model. So tracks.track model 1 will be the only element in that table. So now let's set up our track module script. So we'll rename this thing to track, and then we'll add those variables from our previous script we created. So let's copy and paste them to the top. And then I'm going to copy all of this code. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to write a new function. We'll call this get segment rotation, or maybe you can think of a better name for it. And that will take the previous segment as a argument. And then we'll paste the code in. We don't need this anymore because we're going to use this argument. So we'll delete that. And then at the very end, we're going to return the previous segment's CFrame and multiplied or modified by the transform variable that we've just created. So that's getting the position we want. Now we just need to set it. So let's have a function called track.add next piece, or maybe just add next is fine. And we're going to pass in that existing tracks table that we created from our train handler script. So our previous piece is simply equal to the last element within the existing tracks table. So if we go existing tracks and we index it with the total amount, that gives us the last element. And then the next piece is going to be a clone of the previous piece. So let's copy it. And then how do we know where to position it? Well, we're going to use our function. So local CFrame is equal to get segment rotation, and we provide the previous piece. And now we can say next piece, pivot to the CFrame that we have. And now I'm going to give it a name as well. So next piece.name will be equal to, let's have them all named track model. So track model, and then we're just going to add on whatever number it is. So that will be the total, or the previous total, plus 1. We need to give it a parent as well. So the next piece.parent, we want it to be exactly the same as the previous piece. So previous piece.parent. And then finally, we should probably add this into the table. So table.insert into that existing tracks, the next piece element. And since we've updated the table, let's return it back. So if we want to generate a whole bunch of tracks, we have maybe a function called track.setup. Again, we're going to need to provide the existing tracks. And that's just going to be a loop of starting off with whatever number we have and going up to whatever number you like. Let's make it 100. So we'll generate 100 tracks. All we need to do is make sure we call our track.addNext function, and we both supply as an argument the table, and then we receive its change state back each time. And then once we're done, we will return it back. So that in our train handler script, at the very bottom down here, we can say existing tracks now equals track module.setup, provide that table. So now if I run, you can see we've just got the one track. But if I click and I run, I am actually going to get an error Thankfully, that's really easy to fix, just because I was copying and pasting stuff. So I was referencing the size directly, but we actually want to use the primary part because it's a model, so it doesn't have a size value. But we're going to use this track thing that we set as its primary part. So let's just update that to previous segment.primaryPart.size and previous segment.primaryPart.CFrame. And now when we run, we're going to see a whole bunch of tracks, and it's managed to loop all the way round into a circle. I didn't even do that intentionally, but that's pretty cool. We've now got a completely circular track, which goes and repeats itself many times over. We have got an error coming down from our other script from earlier, our example one. We can just go ahead and delete that. We probably don't want it to keep rotating round in the same direction though. So I might tweak that a little bit. I'm going to change our angle to be much more subtle. Let's just make it a -1 degree turn. And then I'm going to set something called a max curve. We'll make this equal to, say 15 degrees. And we'll track how far we've curved in total. That will just be 0 to start off with. And now I can use both of these in our get segment rotation function. So let's add to our curve every time we try and update the angle. So that's going to be increasing each time. Well, actually it's -1, so it's going to be going down. So we'll say if our total curve is greater than or equal to the max curve, or it's the other way around. So the total curve is now less than or equal to minus max curve. Then we just want to flip the whole thing. So let's make the angle times equal -1. And we also need to flip the alignment as well. So that would be times equal -1. And when we flipped both of them and we run it, we should see this very gentle wiggle. In fact, it's very gentle. I'm going to have to zoom way out so you can even see it. But hopefully you can see, hang on, can we turn off some of the effects? There we go. You can see what's happening now. So we gently curve round to the left. And once we've hit that max curve of 15 degrees, well, it just corrects and comes back around the other way. And so we get this very gentle little snaking motion, which means that when I'm playing, to be honest, I'm not really going to notice, but at least if I'm looking down the track, it looks a little bit more interesting. It looks like it's going somewhere rather than it just being in a boring straight line. And you can tweak these values however you like. I mean, let's say we made the angle a little bit sharper to say like -6 degrees, and we made the curve, max curve, to be 30. Well, if we run that, we're going to get a much sharper curve, right? Doesn't that look cool? Okay, really zigzagging back and forth. I'll just delete the atmosphere a second. So you can do this however you like, really. But you can get some pretty cool organic curves. And the good thing is it doesn't really go anywhere either. So you don't necessarily want a big curve coming all the way around, could loop back to where you started from, or, you know, starts going off in a really weird direction. This actually always keeps the train moving forwards, even though it gives the appearance of going in a corner. And if you do it on a large enough scale, you can't even notice as the player. You can see it looks like I'm curving to the left, and you can't really see much more than that. Pretty cool. But that's generating all of the tracks at once. We probably don't want to do that. So what if we wanted to dynamically generate them as we go? So instead of hard coding the total number in here, let's create 2 new variables. Let's have a total tracks. Maybe that's 100. Can be whatever number you like. And then we're going to have one called track buffer. So that'll be the amount of tracks we generate as a time. Just for testing purposes, I'm going to make this just 2. Okay, so there's only going to be 2 tracks loaded in. So let's say in our setup, we're just going to do the buffer. And so if I run, I'm only going to get these 2. I get the track that I've loaded in plus these 2. So what we could do is we could go into our train handler, and whenever we move on to the next track like this here, we could just say existing tracks equals track module dot add next and supply in the tracks. And if we do that, as I move down the track, more are going to be generated. There we go. You can see that one appearing ahead of me, and the next one, always generating a new track. Pretty cool. And I've lost fuel again. But that means that I'm not going to be removing any tracks behind me, and I'm just doing them, generating tracks forever. And I wanted to use a maximum amount of tracks, right? Total 100, I said. So rather than doing it inside of this, let's actually create its own function just so we can do a little bit more logic. So let's say function track.generate. What are we sending in? You guessed it, the existing tracks table again, but I'm also going to send our current number so we know whereabouts we are. So we want to do two things. We want to add new track, and then I also want to potentially despawn old track because we can't move backwards, so it's no good just keeping it in the game really. We can get rid of it and save up some memory for ourselves. So let's see if the current amount of existing track, if that's less than the amount of total tracks we want in the game, then let's add in a new one. So that's exactly the same line as we've used many times before, just add in a new one. And then let's find any old track. So the old track, we go and get the tracks table, and then whatever current number we're at minus the track buffer. Okay, so if we're at track number 3, we take away our buffer, which is 2, then, well, we're just down at that first track and we're going to get rid of it. So if there's the old track and it does have a parent, then let's go ahead and delete that. We're not going to remove it from the table though, just because that might mess with the exact amount of items in the table. So it's handy to have that representing every element to its corresponding track number. And once we're done, let's return back the existing tracks. So now we can call this track generate function from our train handler script like so. And the current number is our current track number. There we go. So you probably want to add a bit more of a buffer so it's not so obviously generating in front of you. But now we should see the tracks disappearing behind us. There we go. And we can see them spawning in front of us. We're curving round to the left at the moment. But then as we keep going, we're leaving the base plate behind now. And we should probably get some terrain generation going for ourselves soon. But as we're generating a few more tracks, we're going to be hitting that limit pretty soon, I think. There we go. We've now hit the limit, and now the track starts to gently rotate back round towards the right. Now, we could have this go on forever, but I've set the total amount to 100. But, I mean, you have fun with this. You could make an infinite train game with this if you want. But I think that's all for today's episode. So, thank you very much for watching, guys. If you want the project files for this, as always, check out the Gnome Code Academy at gnomecode.com, and you can get all the scripts for this and more for just £10 a month. So until next time, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye!